Have you ever had the sensation of possessing a very limited and shallow way of perceiving the world around you? Have you ever felt the need to go deeper on your knowledge and thoughts? In this video, we will dive into Plato's allegory of the cave and the things it can teach us about our behavior, choices, and attitudes towards the world. Plato is considered one of the greatest thinkers of history. He was Socrates' student with whom he learned to discuss one of the most important problems of human virtues. He believed that philosophy was a therapy for our soul. After Socrates died, Plato decided to dedicate even more to study philosophy and disseminate his teacher's ideas. Such dedication on his studies and reflections resulted in many important current thoughts. These are names most of us have already heard of, especially in high school. However, it doesn't seem we have the competence or maturity to understand the deepness of some reflections at that time. Today, we will discuss one of Plato's great teachings, one of the most famous allegories in philosophy, the allegory of the cave, contained in Plato's work called The Republic. Let's picture a literal cave, where some people are put into as prisoners since the early childhood in order to spend their whole life in darkness. They are handcuffed in such a way that they can't even move themselves, having to remain always at the same place. This way, they just look at the cave walls, which are damp and dark. On the cave entrance, there is a huge enigmatic fire, something like a bonfire that allows some light to go into the cave, in a way that the prisoners can see the shadow of the things outside the cave. People as well as animals pass through the entrance, which is the path for the merchants. Considering that the people into the cave only look at the cave walls, they assume that the shadows represent the way plants, people, animals, and things actually are. That is, they have no idea those shadows are only representations, illusions, or that they are other real human beings just like them outside the cave. This way, those people get fascinated by those shadows of different sizes and shapes. One day, one of those prisoners wakes up and finds out that the chain is broken, and he slowly stands up. Then, he walks to the cave entrance. However, a very bright light dimmed his vision, making him blind and overwhelming for a while. After some time, he starts to see again, and he finds out that the thing that looked like a bonfire is actually the sunlight. Although he still has some difficulties to see, he is positively speechless with the sensation of experimenting things from a totally different perspective. When he leaves the cave, he sees other people, animals, elements of nature, and he notices the beauty of all of it. Now he can see flowers, plants, and there are many variations of colors, types, sizes, and smells. He can see animals of many kinds and shapes. He can see trees and their diversities. Not to mention the sky with the richness of its visual manifestation throughout the day, as well as the vastness and sublime nature of the universe. So he understands that everything he has previously considered reality are just shadows of it. Then he goes back to the cave to tell his friends about the news he has just found out in order to make them free too. I can even picture him excited, trying to share so much information with so many details. Now the unexpected happens. All of his friends start laughing at him. Nobody believes a single word. He can only be nuts with all that nonsense speech. They even threaten to kill him if he insists on those words about the outside world. What so bad attitude comes from him to receive such a heavy punishment? What does he do to bother those people so much? He basically questions, which is not a simple issue. By questioning, he disrupts a whole apparent order in society. destabilizing the already established rules. Now that you know about the myth of the cave, what can this intriguing myth teach us about our daily life? The truth is that man was not the same. That is, a totally different human being came from the outside world, although the physical appearance wasn't any different. The point is that sometimes we act the same way as the prisoners, being limited to our rigid beliefs and knowledge. When we reject the unknown because we refuse to see things through other people's eyes. This way, we cloistered in our own cave, as if the outside world didn't even exist. Also, the outside light that makes him blind may represent our difficulty to change, which also brings us to discomfort in such a way we prefer the solace of our current state. This happens because changing actually hurts, because it implies we need to deal with the momentary instability of being aware we don't know everything. The same way, living a cave after so many years in darkness may be extremely challenging. Leaving the comfort zone of what we already know and do is actually unpleasant. However, after facing this barrier, he had the possibility to live a whole different experience seeing the real sunlight, real people, and real animals. Everything he thought he had lived before, but which actually were only shadows. Making a careful reflection, we can get to the conclusion that we, in a general way, have more similarities with the one who remained in prison, refusing to be free, than with the man who experiences freedom. Sometimes our resistance is so high that we prefer to get stuck on the same habits, the same friends, the same job. That is, the same life, even knowing how harmful they can be to us. According to Plato, the empirical world we experience through our senses is merely a world of appearances, represented by the shadows that reflected to the prisoners, imperfect transitory things of false appearances that keep us imprisoned by their illusory ability. Then, we unconsciously bask and feel relief in our own ignorance. Besides, we also tend to show hostility when we are challenged to review our preconceived ideas. If you consider yourself as the man fighting against the chains of the cave, be sure that it won't be easy to start your journey from ignorance to enlightenment, because there are many more people into the cave threatening you for seeking more. However, for the ones who keep fighting to leave their cave, the beauty of the real world is waiting for them. Just as the men in Plato's allegory, if you try to convince the prisoners about the other side, where real things are available, by telling them that they are wrong, you will get nowhere. Moreover, you will cause offense and may put your own life in risk, as many people in history did. Then, we recall the Socratic education, which is based on the idea of knowledge being spread through questions and dialogues. This is based on the idea that having the right encouragement or motivation, people can be more easily led to search for answers and detect their own errors through their own reasoning. Through this method, there is no lecturing, imposing, or forcing the search for knowledge and reflection. More efficiently, it is based on the idea that wisdom starts with owning up to ignorance. Very clear in the famous sentence, "All I know is that I know nothing," attributed to Socrates. The point defended is that it is not possible to teach anything to anybody by making him or her feel stupid. And it doesn't matter if they are indeed. The Socratic method also takes into consideration the fact that we are not guilty for being ignorant, since the cave in the allegory represents where we are born. On the other hand, the search for leaving the ignorance field is our responsibility. This can be better understood by the bird analogy. We cannot prevent a bird from landing on our head, but it is quite possible to prevent it from making a nest there. Applying the analogy, although we can't avoid being born as ignorant, it is quite possible, and even desired, to avoid eternalizing ourselves there. The question is, Have you already left the cave behind? Are you in the process of self-knowledge to find the outside world? If so, are you courageous enough to pursue the path to enlightenment even though it implies in distancing yourself from many loved ones? Or will you be comfortably nestled in the embrace of old and familiar delusions that have accompanied your life? The answers to these questions are up to you. The chain has been broken. The light is shining outside the cave. See you there.